Good morning. We are back again on your screen. A positive Tuesday indeed. I'm your host Miriam Kaimba, and of course in studio I'm not alone. I'm joined by my colleague Patrick Soko, and we'll take you for an hour or so where we're going to be looking at correctional education, a quite interesting topic indeed. Good morning, Patrick.
Good morning. Is it a positive Tuesday?
I was thinking that you did get my first point. I said a positive Tuesday indeed. Yeah, that's what I said.
Does it reflect?
Yeah, it does. Patrick, please, look, the way it is, I don't know how I have to tell you, but positivity starts in your mind, okay? It's in my mind right now. I've told all those negative vibes that, hey, please stay at home. I'm going for work right now. I need to be positive. And even when I get home, I need to ensure that my positivity verb is still there, okay? Yeah.
But what they also say is that someone's face or outlook should also reflect what is the deeper inner part of yourself.
I think it's just that I haven't eaten in the morning.
Okay, I just hope that we are not declining on the positivity levels there on the part of Miriam Kaimba, because we really need positive energy every time, because at the end of the day we are keeping it positive. But if the champion herself is going to fall short of that, we are going to be worried. But nevertheless, we have to make sure that we remain optimistic, positive, and make sure that we always look out for the positivity in every negative aspect that may come about. I understand sometimes I think that is what sometimes leads to problems, Miriam, even in families, even at place of work. If we're going to always, for example, find faults in people without getting to understand their what they can do best, or trying to get the positives out of what you think is their negativity or their underperformance or anything, then you will get just that. But if you seek to focus on the positive aspects, it goes a long way in helping that person and yourself, because at the end of the day, that person will be able to be comfortable and open up and be able to see that you are able to see good
even
in them.
Improve their performance. Because have you ever interacted with someone who always finds fault in someone?
Yeah,
in people.
Yeah, there are many who can be able to find faults in someone. So we have a lot of different friends surrounding us, and a lot of relatives with different perspectives. So, but every time it's just about you. Why haven't you done that? Why don't you? Why what about if I tell you to say, what about if you do this, or what about I like the way you've done it, but what about if also we do this? The person is able to appreciate without resentment. But if you are going to always attack their ego, then it becomes difficult for you to conversate, because they think you're just up against them. And if they are always psychologically prepared that Miriam Kaimba is always going to attack me, then you're always going to get into confrontation. But a sure way of avoiding that is being positive, looking out for the positive aspect in every difficult circumstance. And I don't think there's any harm in that. Besides, at the end of the day, even at place of work, what we aim for is higher productivity, because that translates into the growth of any institution, your growth at individual level. So if you're going to focus on the negative energies, then it means that will be your preoccupation, and you have no time to think about what is good or what you can do better. So for me, Miriam Kaimba, don't ever think of abandoning this campaign, regardless of the circumstances or the situation. Because I saw, the smile that you are bringing out now. That's the smile you gives our viewers.
Because Patrick, who said I'm abandoning it? I didn't say that.
Yeah, that smile was not coming, and I was worried.
No, so, please,
but when
don't
you
be worried.
Smiling like that, even the viewers know to say Miriam is in for it, and she's geared, and as she spread that positive energy.
Anyway, exactly. Ensure that you keep the positivity going. But right about now, let's get direct into our health corner and just see what the doctors have for us this morning.
Good morning to you, listeners. I'm Dr. Mutinta Muyuni, member of the Medical Women's Association, and I'm here to talk to you today a little more about the menstrual cycle. Today, we are going to discuss the menstrual cycle disorders. Now, yesterday, we talked about where this all starts, the beginning of what we call our womanhood or our mark of womanhood, the menstrual cycle. We have a monthly menstrual period. Now that can come. The bleeding can be anything between three days to about 7 days. And it comes every, say, 21 to 28 days ideally. Now I want it to be clear that each woman must understand their own cycle. Some women or girls may have a 21-day cycle, meaning from the start of the last bleeding until the next bleeding, there's a space of 21 days in between. The first day of the bleeding, we call it day 1. The middle of the cycle is where we expect ovulation to occur. Now I'll give you a tip. There are a lot of apps on our phones these days that help us to count and keep track of our menstrual cycles. And this can help us anticipate. For example, if I know I'm traveling the week I'm having my period, I'll know to prepare a bit extra, or I'll know what I'm expecting. Maybe I might need some painkillers for my period pains, things like that. So it's always good for us girls not to just say, oh, I can't remember when my last period was. Let's be aware, let's be smart, let's predict our expected period. I'll tell you why a little bit later. So, when we have our periods, we may differ. So don't feel bad if your period comes every 21 days. Rather, understand yourself and your own cycle. I'm emphasizing this because we always compare ourselves to other people. Try and compare maybe even to the women in your particular family or your mother, your sisters. See how it went for them. But by far, embrace your own cycle as your own. Manage yourself because we are all unique. Each of us has a unique cycle. There are disorders associated with the variations in the menstrual cycle. One is amenorrhea. Amenorrhea is absence of the menstrual cycle. It may be primary, meaning by age 16, 18, I've not had a menstrual cycle at all. In this case, we'd encourage you to seek medical care and see why is this not happening. Is it that there is something different in my reproductive system, or my hormones are just delayed in maturing up? My reproductive system, my ovulation is delayed. What could be the problem? Your doctor or healthcare provider will be able to assist you, do some tests and find out. Like I said, don't worry about being different. Let's embrace ourselves. Let's not panic. There's good news for everybody. As long as you accept how you are as an individual, you are good enough for me, you are good enough for everyone else. The second disorder I'll bring your attention to is polymenorrhea. When you have bleeding starting and stopping and resuming again within the same month. We call that polymenorrhea or frequent menses. This can be a bit upsetting because sometimes during our periods, the fact that we have to change pads, the fact that we become a bit moody, a bit bloated, sore, slow down in everything that we're doing, having a period twice can be a bit much. And so you want to take care of yourself and see, do I just have a short biological cycle, or this is caused by a medical condition? All these answers can be told to you from a healthcare provider. The challenge with polymenorrhea or frequent periods is sometimes you become anemic, or your blood level or hemoglobin becomes low. You may feel a bit dizzy and a bit uneasy as you are going about your work. Sometimes you even black out. Don't let yourself get to that stage. Know your cycle and know how to manage yourself. I think the most common disorder of the menstrual cycle is menorrhagia, what we call heavy menses or heavy bleeding. Now this one can be due to hormone levels. It can also be due to anatomic conditions or physical conditions of the uterus. It may be larger because of fibroids, or it may be larger because of the lining is thicker because of conditions like polyps or small growths within the lining, or increased thickness due to the influence of hormones like estrogen. Now, like polymenorrhea or frequent periods, menorrhagia typically will lower your HB or your hemoglobin. It will lower your blood level and result in anemia if you don't manage yourself. Now, because we don't talk about periods, we might not know that this is actually a problem. So I want you to listen carefully. If you fall in any of these categories and you find that your quality of life is suffering because of your menstruation, visit a health center, discuss with us, open up, don't be shy. A lot of women go through this, but the trick is knowing how to manage yourself. I'm Dr. Mutinta Muyuni, gynecologist from Medical Women Association, talking to you today about menstrual disorders. We'll talk a bit more about that tomorrow.
Thank you for staying with us. That was our Health Corner on Camnet TV, and we are glad that you also managed to listen to what the doctor prepared for us, and we were looking at issues pertaining to menopause, and we hope you did get to listen for yourself. That's quite an informative aspect, especially pertaining to girl children and guardians on how they can be well guided. Now, moving on the program, we have to get to our next segment where we get to know how the kwacha is performing this morning. Let's have a look. So now $1 is buying at 19 kwacha 32 ngwe and selling at 19 kwacha 70 ngwe. The Greater British Pound is buying at 24 kwacha 62 ngwe and selling at 25 kwacha 10 ngwe. The Euro is buying at 21 kwacha 03 ngwe and selling at 21 kwacha 45 ngwe. The South African Rand is buying at 1 kwacha 02 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 04 ngwe. So now these are the updates as made as of 22nd of August 2023 at 0706, and we are seeing that the dollar is at 19 kwacha 32 and going towards 19 kwacha going towards the 20 on the selling aspect, just a few cents, and we are there.
A few cents, even on the buying part there, Patrick. As you can see, it's 19 kwacha 32 ngwe, almost going toward 20, but on the selling part, just a few ngwe, and will be 20. I hope that by tomorrow when we wake up won't be 20.
Yeah, it will be difficult, but I understand that today Finance Minister Dr. Stumbeko Musokotwane will be updating the nation pertaining to the performance of the economy as this far, and he's going to be analyzing various aspects. What are the challenges? What are the pitfalls? What are the successes? And how are they making sure that they operate within the framework of the 2023 national budget based on the targets that they had set out to follow? Because talking about the national budget, we saw that one of the key indicators of the national budgets, which is inflation. Inflation is actually off the limit in that we had targeted to limit it to a single digit as for 2023, but now it is a double digit at 10.3%, which is an all-time high since April 2022. So now, if you look at that, it is a signal enough that the economy is not performing as it should, because if we have, it tells you that the prices, the level at which the prices are increasing is so high, the frequency at which prices are increasing. So that tells you inflation. So if we were talking about 6 to 8%, we're going to talking about something moderate in terms of the level at which prices are increasing.
Yeah.
So this is evident in the cost of living that we are currently experiencing as a country, in that it is a reflection of whatever is happening. So our reporter Prudence Trotter will be getting to the Ministry of Finance conference, where we expect that they give us more details pertaining to the economic outlook for this country. And also the minister is also, I think what the minister will talk about will also set the foundation for the 2024 national budget, because it will be outlining what are some of the things they need to do. So this conversation will also form part of the base regarding where we are going in terms of the 2024 national budget. I understand that we had a bit of relief when we had our debt restructured under the G20 framework, and we saw major lenders such as China accepting the debt restructuring, and that was quite good, and that provided a little bit of relief breathing space for us to be able to undertake some projects. But that is not, however, something to relax about, because we still have to pay, and those will be there then. We have to pay.
Yeah.
So, but what mechanisms are we putting in place to make sure that we stabilize the economy now, and we start paying this debt?
Yeah.
Because running a country also, you cannot do away with debt. But are we going to be borrowing?
But it's at the level at which you borrow,
yes,
Patrick.
That is
that's why we have
even
seen,
at personal level.
Yeah, that's why we have seen various stakeholders calling for homegrown solutions, so that we avoid this perpetual borrowing of from lenders all the time. Yeah.
And if you look at the debt, part of the debt that we had was commercial. We had commercial lenders, and part of some bilateral debt has not been forgiven yet. So that other part of debt is also mostly commercial. Now that debt also has to be restructured, and these are conversations that the Minister of Finance will be driving this morning. So we have to get acquainted to what the minister will bring out, but we remain optimistic that they'll put in place measures. But a good substitute to economic development is always a production, because at the end of the day, Miriam Kaimba, you cannot be able to what are you going to sell if you are not producing anything? Remember last time I was actually teasing you that if you are going to be just consuming, Miriam, you're just paying for everything, and you're not selling anything, then you are in trouble, because at least you should also have something you're selling which you can also add the price and push the burden to consumers. But probably you and I are not pushing any burden to the consumers. We're just consuming, and what that does is that you're just spending, and at the end of the day, your productivity levels remain stagnant. But if you are investing, or you are investing into something, chances are high that you'll be able to progress, because we are able to sell it and bring profits out of that. And that's the same thing in terms of the economy, Miriam Kaimba. Zambia can only develop if its industry are firing in the right direction. Let's look at the mining sector, talking about Konkora copper mines as well as Mopani mines. These are key mining firms that have been contributing to Zambia's copper profile. But at the moment, are we doing enough? Because you know that copper is most of Zambia's exchange aid, because we do export copper. And some of the conversation we need to be having, Miriam, is that we need to be making sure that we should also have reserve. Are we going to be mining everything and everywhere? Where we should be able to have copper mineral reserves, whereby we reserve these things for future generation, and also be able to dictate the prices. But how do we dictate the price if, as a country of copper, if we're just offloading it on the market? We have to be able to
we saw in the alleged gods scam.
Yeah. So if you also look at other countries like Botswana, Miriam, these countries have advanced in terms of, because they treasure what they have, the diamond. So Botswana is keeping track to its diamond and making sure that it is properly used. So
are you suggesting that Zambia doesn't treasure what it has?
No. We do not, to the entire extent, we are not doing the right thing in terms of safeguarding our minerals. If we are doing the right thing, why are we still having conversations around who should invest in our mining sector? You understand? We are also been having
but in terms of who should invest in our mining sector, I want to get your perspective. Are you of the view that we do not have Zambians who have the capacity to run this mining, like Konkola and KCM?
Yeah, if you ask for my opinion, I don't think we are short of manpower, because we have seen we have institutions like the Copperbelt University as well as UNZA, the University of Zambia, who have been producing people. They have schools of mines. They have been producing people who are able to work in the mines for various in various sectors.
Yeah.
Now, just that, we also have people, Zambians, eminent Zambians, who have been running the mining sector, Miriam Kayemba. These investors don't work alone. They don't bring everyone else from where they are coming from. It is Zambians who are running there, who are running the mines. And if you ask me, more Zambians in the copper belt have more experience on how to run the mine, because they are the ones who have been, for example, managing the water issues under KCM, on the underground water and everything. So how have they been doing that? They have gained enough experience to be able to do some of those things. I think what may be lacking would be capital injection. To what extent are we injecting the right capital to be able to run our mines? So we may get it wrong on some of the key mines like KCM, for example, Mopani, but we can still get it right, for example, under the gold. How are we managing our gold? We can still get it right how we are managing sugilite. How are we making sure that Zambians take prominence in the managing of sugilite? Those are conversations that a country we need to be driving at, so that we see how ultimately we should be able to realize more money through our minerals, because I think the only gift God gave us is our minerals.
Yes.
We can't be a mineral-rich country but poor and classified as a poor country. And when we're supposed to be going towards becoming a prosperous middle-income country. In fact, we don't have to be a prosperous middle-income country if we use our resources very well. We have to be a rich country.
We have to be a rich country because we're rich
already.
We are the second largest copper producer.
Yes, but what are we producing with our own copper in this country?
Yeah.
We are producing probably cables that we use for our wiring our houses. But we can do more with our copper.
Yeah. Anyway, I really get your concern, Patrick, but I want to ensure that you keep your positivity. I can get the verb, you know.
But Miriam, the positive energy is about a positive Zambia.
Yeah, I get you.
So we have to spread the positivity.
I get
There's
you.
room, there's hope in this Zambia.
Hope indeed is there. Hope indeed is there, but we have to ensure that those who have been, given the mandate to run the affairs of this country do the right thing at the end of the day, so that everyone benefits, and not only few individual benefits from these natural resources that we have in the country.
You're a journalist, and I would want to ask you, if the stories we've been doing, for example, the fact that, for example, 2 years down the line, we haven't been able to make sure that these two mines are running effectively, what would be your assumption of how the people on the copper belt are living?
They're in poverty, trust me, because a lot of people were working from there. Okay, now, and back then we had someone recently on set who was telling, if I work for you, okay, you don't pay me, you're increasing my poverty levels. But now, imagine those people are not working. How is their poverty levels? These are the questions that people should understand. But anyway, we have been told that these are matters that are before the courts of law, and they are trying by all means to ensure that, they settle the lawsuit outside court. Anyway, for me, in my own opinion, 2 years, it's quite a long time, Patrick. If we're going to say we have decided to take this route of settling this case outside court, 2 years is quite a long time.
You're right.
Yeah.
2 years is quite a long time. What are some of the stories?
But anyway, since we're keeping the positivity and hoping that, you know, in the near future we'll be able to see the Zambia that we want. Like you said, we don't want to see it to become a middle-income, prosperous country, but a rich country. Exactly, looking at these resources that we have.
Sometimes, you know, and I'm amazed because I know that our leaders do travel. If you go to developed countries, like where they go to, they will tell you that we are probably 2 decades away from those countries.
Exactly.
You can imagine.
And I
like,
think,
am I in a different continent altogether? In this planet,
and I think,
Pluto?
you know, I think sometimes we should just be, you know, sit back and analyze. You know, if I'm a leader, you know, you travel around the world and you see this development. When you come back to your own country, these are some of the developments that you would want to see, especially in technology. Because we're moving, it's a digital world now. Yeah. Yeah,
you're right. And yeah, we have to always move with the times, and we can't be remaining decades away, especially that when our friends have already advanced to that level. So moving on, we had interesting stories. We have been talking about a story where opposition political party leaders have been complaining, pretending to say, no, the way they are handling the issues in the National Assembly, those who are featured on this platform, the PF acting president, Given Lowinda, we have spoken to them, but we had an opportunity to speak to the Speaker of the National Assembly during a media interaction, and she did give quite a number of insights and stories pertaining to how she feels and what also needs to be done to advance a 50-50 gender representation of women and women, especially in Parliament, because she was expressing concern that we have a situation where there remain too many in the house. And we have to be looking at such issues, you know. I think to have a balance, we need to also look at that. But we have to do that, especially at political party level. But let me read out this story where Speaker of the National Assembly, Nelly Muti, says she has performed well in the 2 years as first female speaker for the National Assembly. During the media breakfast in Lusaka, Ms. Muti says, however, is aware that everyone has an opinion of her performance. She says her view on her performance is enshrined on the basis that it is a learning process. She, however, expressed concern at the low numbers of members of parliament, female parliamentarians in the National Assembly. So,
anyway, before we get to play that story, just to acknowledge those who are watching us on Facebook, we have Joseph Mwinga, who is saying he's watching us from Chisamba, Zambia. We have Ronald Mumba. Thank you so much for watching, Ronald. We have Phineas, they are watching us. We have Moses, and we have Mwanza watching us. Thank you so much. Please do take part in our conversation this morning. Today we are looking at, or rather our topic of discussion this morning is, does correctional education matter? Please do call us, those who are watching us in the comfort of your home and those who are watching us live on Facebook. Please do drop us those messages. We'll be able to read them through. But right about now, let's get direct to playing that story where the speaker was addressing the media.
Friday, 3rd September 2021, Nelly Muti goes down in the country's history books as first female speaker of Zambia's National Assembly. While this move has been received with a lot of excitement by champions of gender equality, for the opposition, they allege that she is biased when handling parliamentary business.
This is the worst time. All other speakers of the National Assembly treated opposition MPs with some decorum, with some respect.
But Speaker of the National Assembly, Nelly Muti, is unconcerned by such remarks from the opposition, as she says her performance is well after 2 years. Ms. Muti believes everyone is entitled to talk, but she has focused her energies on making a difference. Speaking during a media breakfast Monday, Ms. Muti, however, expressed concern with the low numbers of female parliamentarians, which only occupy 15% of the seats. But the Speaker says the downsizing of the Ministry of Gender to a department has no harm because there was no important achievements that were amassed as compared to the current status.
Sizing. I believe when there was a Ministry of Gender, I don't know if there was anything that we achieved more than what we have achieved now. I think the issues of gender, even if it's now a department under the Vice President's office, for me as a person, I believe that there is no harm that has been made by downsizing. It's not the ministry that is going to ensure that women participation is enhanced in parliament or political decision positions.
Meanwhile, Ms. Muti has called for the construction of a new parliament as the current one was built in 1968 to accommodate 90 members of parliament.
That parliament building was built in 1968. It was meant to accommodate only 90 members of parliament. But today we are 167 members of parliament in the house. So in terms of space, we don't have sufficient space. So we need to have a new parliament, especially if we are going to look at the limitation. Of course, that is long term.
Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Quite interesting indeed. We need more female parliamentarians in the House. So, sometimes I have analyzed, and most of the times why I've seen a lot of women shun away to involve themselves in political issues, or rather governance issues, is because of the name callings. Most of the times they have been accused of several injustice. Okay, that's more of the reason why we have found a lot of women shunning away. And also previously, political violence also had contributed to this, where a lot of women would shun away, from taking part in these political issues because of violence.
Yeah, but I think it is also a question about persistence. And if you are going to use that, I think, what about those women who have stood the ground and have been able to compete alongside men? What have they done? Are they super women? But I think it's just about the courage and determination. Because if you ask me, violence does not only deter women, it also deters men. But what makes the difference that others will persevere and remain into the game. But because if we are going to see more women getting involved, ultimately we are going to see that they will dominate the system and there will be no room for violence. But if we are going to see them backing off, so sometimes the funny part also is that this country is highly dominated by women. But to what extent do we as women support each other? Is another question.
Yeah, that's a very good question.
During for example, during some elections, even at what level, you still want to support a man. And not support your fellow woman. And
it's because most of the times we have commercialized our politics in Zambia. A lot of women will tell you, I'm shortful of resources, so I'm unable to get into this. And where are they going to get the resources from? So instead of having fellow women supporting them, other fellow women would want to receive those handouts from men. That's why they go. Other men of them would rather, go ahead and support women.
I cannot agree with you more.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, it's also about you as the financial position.
Exactly.
Because I'm giving people money, and you are just going there busy soliciting for votes without even a chitenge or a t-shirt. You want people to vote for you. Wow, me, I'm dishing out t-shirts, chitenges, I'm able to provide shema, lunch.
This is the mindset that we need to change, okay?
Yeah.
Because most of the times, and that's why a lot of electorate, voters would want, to 2 years, 3 years down the line, they come and start complaining. It's because most of the times they have been persuaded, misled by politicians that vote for me, I'm giving you this money, I'll do so much more if you vote me into power. But where has this taken us? Okay.
And over the years, I think we have seen an enlightened citizen, because ultimately we are able to see that people are now able to make judgments to say, I think there's something for us here, and no, there's nothing for us here. So the others are able to make that decision. But now where we need to go to, like you are saying, is how do we decommercialize politics? because now it ceases to become a competition of ideas. It becomes a competition of who has more resources. So that also tends to discourage women, because sometimes you may find this woman and this young man or a person with disability may not have those resources to be able to campaign, to be able to move from one place to the other, and that becomes an hindering factor. But another person will be able to do just that. So now I think, how do we make sure that people vote based on ideas? Because sometimes I think people should have experienced that in the past, we've seen that people vote because of a t-shirt and the chitenge they got. And at the end of the day, when it comes to what they get out of it, they have gotten nothing. So you get a chitenge and a t-shirt worth 100 kwacha, and you choose to suffer for 5 years because you supported a wrong councillor, a wrong parliamentarian, a long leader in terms of, for example, a president who may not be able to represent your interest. So at the end of the day, it should all boil down into how are we analyzing would-be leaders. It's not about how much money this person has, because sometimes that not be, you may be ignoring someone who has good leadership qualities by going for someone because probably of their ability to make money.
Exactly.
And dish out money
out money. Exactly. Just a reminder to our viewers that this morning we are looking at a topic: does correction education matter? You, our viewers, can take part in our conversation this morning by dropping us your message on our Facebook platform. And those watching us in the comfort of your home, you can call us so that you participate in our conversation this morning. Moving forward, we did see a story yesterday of where a man believed to be in his early 50s has been discovered dead in unclear circumstance in Lusaka's garden compound. Let's get a look at that story.
Lusaka's garden compound, Lwangwa area residents Monday had a rude shock after a familiar member of the community was discovered dead few minutes after being spotted. A man, only identified as Marco, believed to be in his early 50s, was discovered dead around 08 hours after he was spotted collecting waste for dumping. One of the concerned residents says Mr. Marco used to collect waste in the community to earn a living, and on the 30th day, he was seen going on with his business around 07 hours.
vatenga kuna tumabino aindodaya vakoshana nokoshana na vantu hapa so then manje ndipetesa vya sabe ponto yafika ta abamaki vamwadi there's a dead body. So as a community leader tetamangira hapo go checking what is happening to what is happening so tacho tsanganisika bonse mu kombo ndanza boda bonda feweza sabe mushe these are the cause of death. It is not known that
Another resident, Emmanuel Tembo, has since expressed concern on Mr. Marco's death as his relatives' whereabouts are not known. Meanwhile, area councillor Adrian Banda has appealed to community members to be prayerful, as there has been a number of deaths in Ngwere 22 within a short period of time.
Other police officers who came on site and they picked the body, already disposed it into the mortuary. The police also will constitute the investigation so that we can avail what the cause of death. My appeal to the general public, especially the people within my ward, Ngwere Ward 22. I would say let us pray, let's put everything in the hand of God, because there's too much occurrences of found dead bodies within the ward.
The body of the deceased has since been deposited at the University Teaching Hospital UTH mortuary by Emersdale Police Station officers. As at broadcast time, police spokesperson Leah Monga was yet to be furnished with details on the matter. For Camnet News, Afias Kaptula, Lusaka.
Quite a sad scenario there. We do send our condolences to the family. It's quite sad, most of all, that you do not exactly know how this person has died, what led to their death. It's very sad. But anyway, we who hope that after a post-mortem is done by the University Teaching Hospital, we can be told through the police what exactly transpired or what might have led to his death.
Yeah, incidents of sudden death are happening. I remember we had Dr. Mlenga here in the studio. He was talking about that, and if you see, that is also an element of non-communicable diseases that are also affecting us. So, you know, you may be saying that, no, how was it? Somebody died, you know. These NCDs are really, really affecting us. Sometimes we do get accustomed to communicable diseases, and we think that there are no other diseases. No wonder we always advise that you always have to aim for a healthy lifestyle, because if you do not, consequences that can happen if you do not exercise regularly, chances of you becoming obese are high. So the chances of you suffering from heart conditions are high. So when you see an incident of sudden death, then you say wanamulowa. So sometimes we end up finding witchcrafts in the circumstances which do not even arise. So to be healthy, let's be proactive.
And most of the times, people would just prefer eating this junky food and, you know, not exercise and do what, and, you know, have a I don't care mind to their own healthy. But at the end of the day, what they do not realize, like you said, is that, you know, there are certain non-communicable diseases that someone wouldn't know that they have this condition, like diabetes and other stuff. You know, because of not eating very healthy, you have these fats inside your body, and slowly they're killing you. You don't even know. And also, some of the things that we take, let's say, for example, these local alcohol that we take to jiri and stuff like that, you'll find that most of people are abusing these things without knowing the implication that these things have on their bodies. Yeah.
You are right, Miriam. Let's also have a look at a story where former Minister of Finance Deputy Minister in the Mwanawasa regime, Jonas Shakafuswa, has charged that government should not dictate the price of maize in the country. And we also have another story where a Ndola-based youth organization has called for collaboration between the government and civil society organizations and members of the general public in combating alarming numbers of HIV infections among adolescents. Let's have a look at these two stories. We'll be back on the other side.
So these people who are actually crying of the high cost of living are mostly unemployed people in the urban areas. But why have we got so many people in the urban areas who are unemployed when there is so much work which can be done in the rural areas? So government has to look at a reversal where they give incentives for people to move from the rural areas to go to their areas of origin, where we subsidize their production so that they become productive and contribute to their welfare. So most of these things where you find a lot of people in my son's constituency, Mandevu are crying, Matero are crying, is because they're not engaged in productive work. And then best thing is that let's make sure that the price of maize is not controlled, and the farmer should have an option of where to sell, not where you're bringing now the National Service to be exporting. No, that is actually the wrong thing to do. Let the farmer himself find a market where he can get the best return for his products. We shouldn't have this control where government should be the one exporting. Government doesn't engage in farming, so why should government be the one who benefits from the sweat of the farmer? So we should have a situation where there is liberalization of marketing of crops in the country. We should look at that, but that in itself is going to bring economies to the rural areas where the farmer will be able to grow a crop and be able to sell it at a competitive price. And the price should be controlled. If the farmer is able to sell his maize in DRC for 1,000 kwacha a bag, let the farmer sell. That is going to give incentive even to these other people who are in the urban areas to go to the rural areas and find land and start farming. So
The annual incidence of HIV among adolescents aged as young as 15 years in Zambia is at 0.31%, which corresponds to approximately 28,000 new cases of HIV per year. On Friday, 14th August this year, the Minister of Health, Sylvia Masevo, disclosed that the country records about 28,000 new infections of HIV, of which 14,000 to 17,000 are adolescents.
New HIV infections among individuals aged 15 to 35 years, particularly affecting young girls and women.
This past week, another shocking revelation was made from Eastern Province, where 120,000 individuals are on treatment out of the population of about 2.6 million. A dollar-based Youth Changing the Mindset organization says this is alarming and needs government, stakeholders and members of the public to work together.
In the Mindset organization, we are committed to ensuring that we work together with other stakeholders in ensuring that we combat and prevent the spread of HIV amongst adolescents.
Organization's Executive Director, Comfort Mwasa, says his organization will spare no effort in conducting extensive awareness campaigns to sensitize young people about the importance of HIV prevention.
We'll be sensitizing adolescents about what HIV is and how they can be able to protect themselves from the virus. So again, as an organization, we are just urging adolescents that are living with HIV positive to ensure that they are adhered to treatment, because we understand that for a nation to be productive, health is very important and health is very cardinal. So we are just ensuring young people to ensure that we adhere to treatment for those that are positive, and those that are not, let us ensure that we abstain or we use other things to ensure that we try to combat and reduce the alarming levels of HIV amongst adolescents in our country.
Vincent Piri for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
Quite two interesting stories there. Soko, I really don't know why we are having high numbers of adolescents, being infected with HIV.
Yeah, I think it's part of the education.
Is it because most of them lack information to prevent themselves from such infections?
Yeah, so as Zambia's population is increasing, we need to be increasing in terms of service provision. How do we capture young people under the adolescent centers? Most of the adolescent centers are underfunded and sometimes in some constituencies non-existent. So you discover that, that tends to bring a problem, because there is no one to speak to these young people. They are limited people, and we see that there's a lot of family disintegration in these communities. Just as we are seeing the manifestation of junkies, that is corresponding also with the issues of, in terms of the number of HIV cases. That is also corresponding to issues pertaining to teenage pregnancies and unwanted pregnancies. So because these young people are getting involved in illicit activities, and when they get involved into drug abuse and alcohol abuse, their minds are intoxicated, their judgment is impaired, and they get to engage in unprotected sex and other activities. So that tends to spread this. And we're also seeing that at the level at which young people are abusing drugs, there are also drugs that are injectable. So you discover that this person is using the same needle, the next person uses the same one. People don't realize those consequences. That is also among, also can lead to HIV. So all those consequences can also be leading to that. Now, but we are seeing that because we're not paying attention to these issues affecting young people, ultimately everything else will be a problem. So it means that we may be seeing, because we have seen already that you and I agree now that we have high cases of alcohol and substance abuse.
Yes, amongst the youth. Yes, we agree.
What are some of the consequences that are likely to come out of that? 15
years from now, we'll have a generation of people who are mad and cannot control themselves.
So we are bleeding these zombies who cannot think properly, but and they get engaged in everything, crime.
And these are future leaders of tomorrow.
Casual sex, all those things. So these are future leaders. But if we get them, there's a phrase that they use usually in football to say, catch them young. When they are still young, it is easy to teach them about football, about anything, about everything. But if you don't do that, when they are old. It is difficult. So now, at what extent are we doing as guardians, as parents, to make sure that we guide these young people? So now, at the end of the day, if it's going to be business as usual, we're seeing these community in compounds where the husband goes to drink, this other, the mother also has gone. Now the children also make their own decision.
Their own decision. And you know, the funny part, someone anyway was, you know, we are having a conversation with someone. So this woman was like, so this young lady, the mother used to work in a bar, okay? So when she grew up also, she started working in a bar. So now she was like, in one family, I said, no, it's because of what she was seeing from the mother. You know, parents will become role models of the children. I know that look. You're looking at me, why is me mirror? I'm saying parents. It's a phase that I've used. It's not I'm saying that I have a child, Soko, or stuff like that, but because I saw the look.
But you're a child yourself.
Soko.
So as this child, you can share experience.
Soko. Really? Are you going to say?
You are a child of your mother.
Yes, I am. I am.
I'm not talking about, I'm not going to lecture you about superior and everything, but I'm going to be honest with you and talk. you can put forth your perspective.
Anyway, so this woman was telling me, you know, then I told her, you know, you realize that children, you know, parents are role models of their children, because when a child is growing up, they look up to their parent, what their parent is doing. So if in a home setup, they see their parent going to the bar every day, drinking anyhow, bringing different men, you know, in their homes, when the child grows up, they'll think it's normal. It's a normal culture, because I see my mother doing this trend almost all the time. Even when a father, you have a son, you send your son to a nearby shop and tell them, go and buy me cigarette or alcohol. You don't find it normal.
I think I'm really getting the way. I'm really getting it now. When you say that our parents are role models over their
I hope you're a role model.
I want to, there's another aspect, because you know what, there's this lady, she's a working class, but also the mother loves fashion and designing. Because of that, the next case she was talking about was, I want to do a course on tailoring and designing, because I want to do so because I'm sure the child has seen everything. Oh wow, the passion the mother injects in that. But also we have seen that other mothers would say, go and explore. I want you to make the right decisions. There's no way you can just go and reach that age and say get married. Explore. You know, that arrangement. So now in these explorations, you know, we tend to make mistakes. But you know, what is important is that we have to empower children with the right information and the right understanding, so that we help them in decision making. When we talk about HIV, there are quite a number of measures that are put in place to make sure that they respond to the pandemic. I remember a long time ago, we had made a lot of progress, because every day we used to talk about HIV. But it is now that we hardly talk about it. We had a lot of adverts, but I'm still wondering to say, why hasn't the Ministry of Health seen the need that we should continue advertising?
Just like the way we have been doing for COVID.
But we are seeing that HIV is probably killing more people than COVID-19. But you saw how we injected a lot of energy and resources in the COVID-19 pandemic. Why are we not replicating the same gesture to make sure that we discourage young people from getting infected with the virus? But at the end of the day, I think that this HIV business also really does support a number of people. You can imagine if HIV was to end today, how many people would be unemployed? But I don't want to talk about that. But let's get to look at another story that you have on the other side. But that's food for thought.
Yeah, it's good. You know, someone had not almost, but someone back then, I think when I was growing up, someone came forth and saying they found a cure. Anyway, that's a story for another day.
So
that's a story for another day, Soko.
Yeah,
exactly. Anyway, government, let's play a story where government has been urged to increase funding toward education in correctional facilities as the country heads toward the end of the fiscal year. Let's get to look at that story on prisons.
increasing the literacy programs, because if the budget is constrained, I don't think we are going to see a lot of people having transformation and reformation. So in order for that to happen, we need very much to increase the budget, because if the budget is increased in correctional education, every citizen that is in correctional facilities are going to enjoy the ability to interpret the law and not to fall into the trap of the law because of ignorance. We commend the government for what they have done and they are still doing. Even in Mukobeko Maximum Prison there, the correctional facilities, they have all those good facilities, but we want these kind of facilities to cut across the nation to all correctional facilities.
Well, thank you for staying with us on the Camnet Breakfast Show Tuesday edition, where we focus on community. Myself and I, Patrick Soko and Miriam Kaimba. And we are glad to those of you who have continued to be with us on the Camnet Breakfast Show. We value your viewership, and let's get interacting and keep those comments coming so that we can get interacting. And we want to hear from you and especially you, our dear viewers, right about now. Give us your insights and your perspectives on what we are talking about this morning, and we want to hear from you. And we have quite a number of people who have been with us. Miriam Kaimba, you did mention some of them, but let's get to interact with our viewers, especially on our social media platform on Facebook. Remember that we always stream the Camnet Breakfast Show on our page as well as on YouTube channel. And now we have Ronald Mumba, who says watching from Dollar Industry. Thank you, Ronald, for watching. We have Phineas in Ntambe, who says watching from Mansa, and glad to know that Mansa is watching this morning. We have also Mwanza, who's saying watching from Chainda, Kenwood. Good morning to you all. Thank you. Good morning to you too. Where is Kenwood? I would love to know that area. Kenwood, have you heard of that place, Miriam?
No, I've never heard of it. Probably, maybe it's not in Lusaka. I don't know.
Chainda Kenwood. Okay. We haven't done stories from Chainda Kenwood. We have to go there, and I think we have to also explore this area. We have also Kingsley Machila, who says good morning. I'm watching you from Mazabuka, the sweetest town in southern province, Zambia. Indeed, it is the sweetest town of Mazabuka. We understand
where you find the sugar cane.
Yeah, where we find the sugar canes. We have a mini plantation of sugar cane here at Camnet TV, which we do harvest every year, and we'll be harvesting, I think, in October. It should be October. We do harvest in October or June? We did harvest already, is it? Yeah, and we'll be doing that. So thank you, those of you who are watching us. But we'd also want to hear from you where you are watching us from, and let's get interacting. Give us your perspective, your comments and contribution on the Camnet Breakfast Show this morning. We want to hear from you, our dear viewers, and your views matter, especially on this program. Miriam.
Exactly, and this morning we are looking at, does correctional education matter? Most of the times, Patrick, when people are sent to prison, anyway, they are found guilty by the court and sentenced, convicted, sent to prison, most of the times people would say these are the condemned, these have been condemned, you know, they are not supposed to benefit from what society can give at the end of the day. But what we have seen is that various stakeholders are now coming on board to ensure that these inmates also get an education. But again, the other concern is, does this education for them matter? Because someone may be there for 25 years. Does the education matter? In your own view, what would you think? What do you think?
Education does matter. Miriam.
For them, the argument would be, why do I need to have this education? Because where am I going to use it? Okay, where am I going to apply whatever I learn?
The prisons are an industry. The correctional facilities are now an industry, Miriam. And the correctional facilities are also contributing to the food basket. And you know that they produce a lot of vegetables.
Vegetables, yes. Even at Kamara, you would see them.
Yes.
Yes.
They also produce a lot of a lot of maize. But if their capacity is enhanced further, they can do more. And when we're talking about us becoming the food basket of the country, exploring the agriculture sector through prisons, correctional facilities is important, and it's something that we can score. We also have skills, carpentry. For example, people do make requests, you know. There's an interaction in the prison. For example, those who are police officers, those who are prison warders and the likes, and those who visit them, they do find people, some things displayed there. So you can make a sofa, and somebody else from the outside is selling for you. And we also have trustees. So these people have access to go outside, and they can go and display this and sell. Those who are into carpentry, they're able to make something. You are saving something for yourselves, for yourself. Then we also have bricklaying. You know? So if some of the things they can do for their own within the system, or someone can hire them to say, come and build for me on my site. So at the end of the day, I think correctional education does matter, because if you go to prison, at least you should be coming out with a skill. Unlike you come out of prison without a skill, how do you then cope? You know, we've done stories on how it has been difficult for those who are incarcerated to be able to adjust to living in society, because the life in correctional facilities is difficult. So you discover that if you are not prepared to reintegrate, and there are no serious mechanisms, it becomes difficult. But if you come out of prison, you saved something from there, and then you'll be able to start your workshop as a carpenter. You'll be able to make money for yourself and rent a house and start over fresh. Because you know, those sometimes when people are incarcerated, when they are coming out, they start from the scratch, and others lose out a lot.
Others lose out a lot, and most of the times, Patrick, you'll find that someone might have been convicted and sentenced maybe to 25 years in prison, and by the time they are coming out, none of their relatives they can be able, you know, to locate these relatives of theirs. So now, like you put it earlier on, that it becomes very difficult for them to integrate. But one thing that we shouldn't forget is that when we talk about correctional facilities, we are no longer calling them prisons. We are calling them as correctional facilities, meaning that people, they are there to reform. So we need them to reform. So, and by them ensuring that they reform, we need all these small mechanisms that we can put. For example, the education itself, the skill that they are given itself. And you know, surprisingly, I was interacting with one of these stakeholders who also indicated that they also have a Bible study in prisons, where people are even taught, you know, they go to Bible college there, they're taught and they're given a certificate at the end of the day. So this is a good thing, despite that, you know, someone might have committed a crime, an offense, but later on they are sent to prison. It is, you know, their way to ensure that they reform at the end of the day, so that when they come back to society, they are not the same people they were before. Yeah.
Indeed, that is quite an insightful. We also have another comment from Avena Insonyameya Kasoa, who is saying, good morning, host, best station ever. And good to hear from you, and we are glad that is what you think, and we'll continue to make sure that we deliver to your expectations.
Anyway, yesterday we did have, you know, an interview with a civic leader who was called for the immediate dismissal for non-performing directors at the Lusaka City Council. Kamala Ward 5 Area Councillor Minders Matter has noticed with concern that the failure to pay 3 months' salaries to workers at council is, you know, a challenge. And one thing I've realized is that, you know, we had him on set, and he did, you know, disclose these anomalies that are happening at the Lusaka City Council. And it's very quite sad that despite the Lusaka City Council being one of, you know, the well-to-do, which has a lot of channels where they can correct the revenue, but still they're still having challenges of, you know, workers going for months without being paid. This is a very sad situation for the Lusaka City Council, and we hope that, you know, like he had put it anyway, because he's alleging that some directors are not working. Anyway, I hope that the relevant authority there could look into the matter and ensure that, you know, if they're not working, those directors, they should be fired. Why should they be kept? These are the other concerns. Anyway, let's get direct into playing the story as we come back and continue with our discussion, where we are looking at, does correctional education matter in the country?
I want to say that we are very saddened with the current situation where we've got over 3,000 workers at Lusaka City Council who've been unpaid for over 3 months. To us, that presents a challenge as civic leaders, because we rely on these people to be able to perform their duties for us to move forward in service delivery in our wards. Unfortunately, that non-payment of salaries is affecting these people, because they've got families to feed, they've got bills to pay, they have to pay their rent and all these things. So for us, we are being affected as civic leaders. And we want to be very clear to say that 3 months non-payment of salaries, for us it simply means that there is a problem with the management at Lusaka City Council, and we are calling on the Local Government Service Commission to make serious reshuffles in that management. Of course, we know that some directors are trying their level best to perform well, but there are some people, some other directors who have completely failed, and it is these directors that we are saying they must go, because if they don't go, this particular situation of non-payment of salaries is going to get worse and worse to a point where we cannot control it.
Those are views that, you know, those are some of the concerns that Kamwala Ward 5 Area Councillor Mainda Smata is indicating that, you know, or rather calling that, you know, some non-performing directors at the Lusaka City Council should be fired for non-performance. It's quite a sad situation that the workers have gone for 3 months without being paid. He says, you know, despite, you know, the Lusaka City Council having a lot of channels to collect revenue, but still, you know, workers are still going for months without being paid. Quite a sad situation. But right about now, before we usher in our guest, let us recall a story where government has been urged to increase funding toward education in correctional facilities as the country heads toward the end of the fiscal year.
Get all the latest updates in court news only on Camnet TV. We take you and make you feel part of the court sessions through our in-depth coverage of the adjudication process. Get informed on those who have been arrested, delayed and denied the police bond or bail victims, persons taking plea, court adjournments, verdicts, and those administration issues in the judiciary. Camnet TV is on channel 274 on DSTV, channel 25 on GoTV, and find us on channel 106 on Topstar. You can also follow and give us a like on our social media platforms. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
About increasing the literacy programs, because if the budget is constrained, I don't think we are going to see a lot of people having transformation and reformation. So in order for that to happen, we need very much to increase the budget, because if the budget is increased in correctional education, every citizen that is in correctional facilities are going to enjoy the ability to interpret the law and not to fall into the trap of the law because of ignorance. We commend the government for what they have done and they're still doing. Even in Mukobeko Maximum Prison there, the correctional facilities, they have all those good facilities, but we want these kind of facilities to cut across the nation to all correctional facilities.
This is what characterized the Malaira traditional ceremony of the Kunda-speaking people of Mambwe district in Eastern Province. Alleged UPND cadres were not happy with the presence of former President Edgar Lungu at the ceremony. The former head of state attended the ceremony on Saturday, 19th August 2023, at the invitation of Senior Chief Chansefu of the Kunda-speaking people. His presence at the Rwaneni Arena sent panic among the said cadres, who demanded that the 60th president leaves the place, arguing that after losing power, Dr. Lungu has also lost the privilege to participate in the ceremony. Lawyer and former Malambo Member of Parliament, Magebi Zulu, later engaged police, who agreed to maintain law and order at the event.
Your job, sir, is to maintain peace and security. So you will do your job. And we will do our job. Exactly. So let's work together.
That's the message of God.
So now we are going to move together, and you will take us there. Okay? So for us, we are very peaceful people. We have not come here to fight anyone. We've come to attend the ceremony. So what's going to happen is we're going to leave this place together. You accord us security. And those that will try to make the place not so peaceful, the job is to make sure that they're taken away.
Joseph Serisho is a PhD candidate in international politics and international relations at the University of Zambia.
It's a sad development, in my opinion. Any Zambian person has got that right to associate themselves with any events within the Zambian territory, be it cultural or trade union or political party, and there's no one that is allowed to interfere with that right. Those rights must be protected and upheld. And what institution protects these rights? We have another constitutional office, the Human Rights Commission, that protects individuals to uphold the Bill of Rights. If such violations are seen, the Human Rights Commission is supposed to investigate and make a report to such violations, and such individuals should be dealt with.
And Community Action Against Corruption Chief Executive Officer Brighton Tembo has called upon the Zambia Police in Eastern Province to arrest and charge all UPND cadres who took part in threatening violence against former President Lungu.
Such kind of behavior is what Zambians voted out in 2021, and that behavior, for sure, it has no place in Zambia as a country. So the UPND as a party should also acknowledge the fact that that behavior is hated by Zambians, and it should not be tolerated regardless of who is participating in it. Zambians voted for freedom, and we want to enjoy the freedom as we gave it to ourselves.
While condemning the conduct of UPND cadres in Eastern Province, Socialist Party Youth spokesperson Stanley Mubasa also echoed the need for quick investigations into the matter so that perpetrators are brought to book.
It is very clear that senior government officials were there and the police officers know who perpetrated that violence. We expect now the IG to be on hand and ensure that those criminals are arrested without selectivism. If truly this government is fighting cadreism and violence, it is going to be proven on this case.
Vincent Piri for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
We have now transitioned into our first interview, where we are looking at does correctional education matter? And in studio we are joined by Education Hope Foundation Executive Director Charles Mugabe. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Miriam.
We're glad to have you on set this morning.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
To begin our interview, before we jot down in what we are looking at this morning, just kindly, for the sake of our viewers who are watching you the first time, just give us your background. Who is Mr. Charles?
Well, Mr. Charles is a simple man. He loves knowledge into education. I could say I'm more like an education advocate. Yes, because whatever that I do, it's all bordered on education. I've authored a book called Culture of the Best Student, of which I was best student at NIPA in business administration. So all my life, I've always wanted to see impact in education.
You being one of the person that, channel the purpose for education, and again, channel the education for inmates, does correctional education matter in the country? Because most of the times people would want to argue that when these people are sentenced, to these prison, to this correctional facility, there's no need for them to get an education. They'll be there for 5 years, others during their entire life.
Correctional education, if you look at it like the way you mentioned, most of them, they think taxpayers' money is wasted. But to every change, there is a cost. So this is a small cost that the government, that the citizen must incur so that they see change in the inmates. Because you see, it all borders around recidivism and the crime rate. So if you want to see these go down, that's when you will appreciate correctional education. So without some literacy programs in correctional facilities, then there's a danger of an increase in crime, an increase in recidivism. Recidivism is redoing the crime back, and then they get the same ex-convict and take them back to prison. So those are kind of issues. So if we look at correctional education as a waste, then we want to appreciate recidivism, we want to appreciate high crime, and then it's like we don't want to bring positive change in society, because these are the same people that will be causing trouble in communities. So if these people, they don't have any hope, they don't have anything to do with their lives, because I think what gives someone a goal or purpose, it is something that they are doing. It's like rediscovering yourself. So when they are there, that's why even the name changed from prison to correctional, to correct the behavior, to correct the way of thinking, to correct all these other aspects that some of us are enjoying. So I would say correctional education is very important. And what is correctional education? Correctional education is all kind of education put together. It's not just the secondary school literacy programs. It's therapy, it's technical education, it's skills education, it's all kind of education bordered together, put together. That's what we call correctional education. So these people, they need all these kind of literacy programs for them to reach that state where they are transformed. Because transformation in this matter is the ultimate goal. So when there's transformation, reformation, then we've achieved the successful reintegration into society. So if there's no transformation, no reformation, it's like the way prisons were in colonial days, where a Zambian would be put there without even being exposed to any literacy programs. So they'll be there, they'll go there the same, come out the same. But the Europeans, when they had their prisons, they had all these literacy programs. Why were they having that? Because the ultimate goal is to see that someone reforms in one way or another.
Now, interesting, you mentioned correctional education, but we see that our Zambian prisons are also prone to what we call circumstantial children. These are children who have their mothers incarcerated, and they go along with their mothers. Those children are not guilty, but however, they find themselves in such circumstances. And we see that current provisions do not adequately take care of circumstantial children. For example, we still preview to the aspect of where if a mother is entitled to a portion of food, the child has to share the same food. Let's talk about education. We don't have a specific school for let's say, we are talking about Zambia's advance, we're talking about early childhood education. These children are not exposed to early childhood education, and that is just at the mercy of non-governmental organizations. What do we need to do to make sure that as we talk about correctional education, we also take care of the plight of children?
You see, education is broad. So sometimes I get to think, because education is not a right in Zambia.
Exactly.
Yes, it's not there under the Bill of Rights. So the education that we champion, usually it's the general education, secondary school, high school, whatever. So you find that in correctional facilities, imagine what the kind of stigma and discrimination that is borders around them. So you see that they are more neglected. This is a population that is more neglected, in a way. It's more neglected, and it's supposed to be put in the forefront. So To answer your question, I think what needs to be done is to work on policies. First, we put the education as a human right, and then this education must be enjoyed by everyone. And then when it comes to circumstantial children, this is a very serious issue, like you've mentioned, non-governmental organizations. We've seen some of those prominent ones that are doing a great job in ensuring that these circumstantial children are enjoying an equal life, because they are there but they are not incarcerated, you see. So up to the age of 4 years, they are now taken custody, maybe the parents outside guidance, whoever can come to get them. But sometimes it goes beyond 4 years because maybe the mother doesn't have anyone to give the child. So this is a very, very, very alarming situation. And I think as a citizen and government, I think we need to put up certain policies, certain laws to ensure that these children are protected, because this will be traumatizing their adult life. These are the children that will grow to think that this is normal when it's not normal. They will be exposed to certain environment when they are not supposed to be exposed. In South Africa, you see that circumstantial children and their mothers, they have these facilities where nice facility like it's home, you know. That is just to, after 4 years, the mother is probably separated from the child is taken to a foster home or something. So you find that that kind of environment is good for the child. The child will grow as normal, but if this is allowed, this will not give more hope to these children.
And interesting enough that you bring out that, you know, this is an interesting subject, correctional education. You get the education in facilities. What happens next and you don't have anything?
That's true.
How can we change that scenario? Because you mentioned recidivism. Because you are a trained carpenter while in a correctional facility. Yes. You go to the community, you don't have capital.
And they reject you.
And they reject you. So now, what happens to you? So now, how can we make that smooth transition into society? Because I know most of the times we depend on the mercy of NGOs. Like, I understand there's some NGOs who are helping the prison service, like there's a DAP and others who are working with the prisons. But however, to what extent can we do that as a system, as the Zambian government?
I think correctional education must be taken as a normal program. And then the people that are reintegrating must be accepted. So now, for them to be accepted, I think it needs re-education, sensitization, so that the community, they accept them. I think it's all about the community now. That's why I keep on mentioning the government and the citizen, because the government will not only achieve this program alone, but we need to achieve it together. Like the way we have this program, we're sensitizing. People are watching. So now here's, I remember a good friend of mine was explaining what happened when his father came out. Everyone rejected him. He was rich. But when he came out, everyone was running away from him, you know, people that were close to you. And you have the skills, you have everything, and people are running away. So he had to relocate for him to have a normal life. So these are the things that needs to be done. Sensitization. Information must go out there into the community so that there's that smooth.
Don't you think it is justified for people to fear? This defile, it goes in, then it goes back into the community, then parents wants to protect their children. To say, I think this man, I don't think, but how can we now keep saying, no, when these people go to these facilities, they are reformed. But that education, are we doing fine in terms of making sure that people appreciate that when people go there, they are actually, it's for information purposes.
It's about trusting the system. We have to trust the system. For them to be released, they have evaluated them. They have assessed them that, okay, they are now okay to go out. They are now fine to reintegrate. I think you've heard of the parole system where because of good behavior and whatnot, and then someone is earlier released than the time. So we have to trust the system. The people employed to ensure that there's reformation and transformation are doing the best that they can. So that's why I keep on mentioning sensitization. It's about Changing the mindset, yes. Changing the mindset.
But is there enough investment in terms of changing the mindset?
There's
Because
not
we don't expect people to automatically think.
There's no enough for investment, because if you even look at the allocation towards the Zambia Correctional Service, it's not really adequate. Some places they don't have infrastructure like Mwembeshi and Mukobeko, where there are classroom blocks and then the ICT system. Others they don't have. They rely on funding.
Let's talk about the quality of correctional education program. I know that because of this stigma, you know, a lot of people wouldn't want to invest so much in the education system toward inmates. Let's talk about the quality of correctional education program.
I would say the quality is not 100%, because there are all these other challenges, like mentioned infrastructure, there's overcrowding, there's some places where there are no classroom blocks. So you find that how are they going to study? And then there's a kind of studying which they usually use, which is peer-to-peer in other places, like maybe a teacher is incarcerated, then the same teacher will be teaching the inmates in there. So in terms of quality education, we are very, very, very far. But again, we need to remember where we're coming from in order to appreciate what government is doing. So government has really transited from the kind of hardships that the inmates were having to a place where now we can have a dialogue and then we can see changes. But it all comes to resources. Because if there is no enough resources, then how are we going to see that maximum full attainment of the goal to ensure that there's successful reintegration? Because as they reintegrate into society, they need to be empowered. They need to be given some kind of empowerment according to what they were doing. If it's carpentry, they give them all these resources. You know, if it was teaching, whatever, they give all these resources. That's why, if you remember very well, Miriam, we did the 1,000 scholarship for the inmates with Supershine University.
Yes.
All that is in an effort to ensure that at least there's literacy, there's quality education that will be delivered. But in terms of delivery, it is far from it, because the Ministry of Education disconnected itself from Zambia Correctional Service, from the correctional facilities in 2004. So you find that now, who is teaching them? Who is there to ensure that that quality education is delivered?
But what would you recommend to avoid this scenario we find ourselves in?
To avoid this scenario, I think we have to use all forces first. We have to use media houses like the way Camnet you have done, inviting me to this program to speak about it. We have to ensure that government put up a policy where Ministry of Education, I mean, this is like a job employment, is it? For the teachers. They have to marry them, because the Ministry of Home Affairs are the ones that are in charge. So now, the Ministry of Education must go back. Whatever they did to the DEBs, the minute they introduced DEBs, they cut off all ties. So now they have to find, we need to find a way. We need ourselves, we need to find a way where we connect them back. Then we pick it up from there.
Is education a key in transforming the process of inmates, or they need another thing like counseling and other stuff?
That's why it's called correctional education, because all those are there. They are bordered in one. Like in Nakambala Approved School, where we did some donation in 2021. Nakambala Approved School have got this nice program. That school, if that school can be adopted to be like any other this school, I think it can really be good for everyone. You know, they have fish farming, they do fish farming, they do the farming itself, there's piggery, there's poultry, there's everything. So, what was the question again?
Is education key in transforming the process of inmates?
In terms of counseling, yes. So
without counseling, or they have to go and tandem.
Without counseling, or you need to, you know, corroborate it with counseling for them to process.
Yes.
Because we can't talk about education only, you know, transforming them without them having counseling.
Yes. So now, I wanted to give a background, then I forgot about that. Yeah. So now, correctional education, it borders everything, right? So there's therapy in it, there's counseling. So the point I wanted to arrive to is that at Nakambala Approved School, they have counseling, individualized counseling, when a child comes and then, oh no, look, what. They strengthen them, get into their mind, try to help them. But this kind of counseling, it's not in these adult, because that's not a correctional facility. Yes, so it's a child's detention center just to keep those that are unruly, children who are unruly, they help them to move forward. So in these adult correctional facilities, counseling is not there. And it has to be there. It has to be there. So there's a lot of work to be done.
But now this brings me back to the point that if we're going to be speaking about mindset change and the community to accept these people as they integrate back into society, don't you think that without them going through the process of counseling, it's a danger still?
It is still a danger. That's why I mentioned that quality education, it's not really at 100%, because counseling helps. You know, there are these issues with mental health so you cannot attend correctional education without the component of counseling, because counseling has to do with the mind itself. Because someone has to understand why they are there, why they are learning whatever they are learning, why there are literacy programs. I will tell you that the time we went to Lusaka, is it Lusaka Correctional Facility? Yes, we found that most of these programs are not there. Even the counseling itself, it's not there. So now, if people are given the liberty to say, I can take up education, this is an option for me, it means that there will be no transformation in everyone. Because education for others is more like an option instead of it being like compulsory to say you just need to learn. So we found that it's an option, which it doesn't help. So so there's more work that has to be done.
What will be some of your recommendations as we come toward the conclusion of our program this morning?
I think we need to get to policy formulation. Yes, that's the first thing we need to do. We need to come up with these policies, make sure that the Ministry of Education is reintegrated back to the Ministry of Home Affairs, policies for circumstantial children, because even the environment and everything is not okay. We need resources to ensure that these programs are implemented, because you can't implement a program without adequate resources. And then resources for these places are very, very, very much inadequate. And this is what makes it very difficult. And if you ask me, most of us citizens, we think, like we mentioned in the beginning, we think correctional education is a cost. But at the end of the day, we want a safe Zambia. But how are we going to attain a safe Zambia? By investing into the Zambia Correctional Service. That is the only way. That's why Educational Foundation is there, to ensure that there's quality education. And our first step, our biggest first step, was to bring in the 1,000 scholarships for the inmates with Supershine University, of which we're still in talks with Zambia Correctional Service, so that we have that one big MOU.
Quite interesting. Anyway, this is where we come to the end of our program this morning. We were looking at, does correctional education matter? And in studio we were joined by Education Hope Foundation Executive Director, Mr. Charles Mubabe. I hope I've pronounced your last name.
Mubambe.
Mubambe. Pardon me. Mubabe. I hope you won't sue me for that.
No.
Anyway, this is what we come to. Really, Soko, why are you channeling that? Anyway, this is where we come to the end of our program this morning. But please do make time to join us tomorrow as we bring you another exciting and interesting topic. For me, Miriam Kaimba, and Patrick Soko, it's bye-bye and stay blessed.